Good morning and welcome. It's Sunday, the 25th of August. This is a live podcast broadcast around the world. I'm Bob Pace. I'm your host to Fight CPS, to keep your children, to get back your children from an awful agency. The Child Protection System is a branch of social services supposed to protect your child from neglect and abuse, but also to give you social services aid for your family in need, and if they break your family apart, to bring it back together through family reunification. Family is very, very important, and the best parents, has been proven time and time again, are the biological parents of a mother and a father with their child being raised. That's where it's at, and I'm here to help you. I'm a loving father, family man. I've been married for 31 years. I have 6 children. I have 2 groups, the older ones, the 3 older ones, and the 3 younger ones. And I too was caught up in the atrocities of the child protection system. I call it CPS. This entity is not transparent. There's not accountability with them, and they will take your children. The sole purpose of this agency existence is to make money. It's a $1 trillion business, $1 trillion. And they end up making money at the expense of your kids and the breakup of your family. Yes, there are families that do need to be broken up or need to repair, but it's far and few. There's more innocent families that are broken up. More people, children are taken who aren't in imminent danger, are taken. Mine were in school at the time they took them. And it was a long battle. I mean, I had 5 years of endless phone calls and showing that's not true, because lay people were calling in on me. They were trying to get my family. And these lay people were my in-laws, my wife's mother, father, her brother, and her 3 sisters. Were orchestrating false allegations to the CPS in Orange County, California. Now, I'm from Southern California. I live down at the beach, and I'm broadcasting you right now from my home studio. And I really want to help you. I really want to listen to what you have to say. I care about you because I know it hurts. I've been there. They took my children after 5 years, 3 of them, and it was a 3-year battle. And I did some bad mistakes. I trusted them. I didn't hire an attorney. I didn't keep track of my notes. I let them into my home. I talked to them. And I did no research about CPS because I believed in the government. I believed the government would help you. So I was misled. And for 3 years, I fought them. I got back 2 of my 3 children that were stolen from us, trafficked from us. I did lose 1 child, a 12-year-old precocious daughter that I love still to this day. She's 22 years now, but she was coerced and broken by CPS. She was told to do things that was terrible. Now, it's important that you know how this is an interactive podcast, meaning you can participate in this podcast. You can participate in this podcast. Now, I want to go over how you can interact with this podcast. How can you interact with this podcast? Now, I first want to talk about your step number 1. You're in this room and you're listening and you're taking notes. That's the first way to interact with this podcast. The second way is to type in a comment about your CPS questions or about your CPS questions. Please show me your name. I know some of you may have fancy names and names that kind of tell how you feel, but I like a simple name like Mary or Bob or Bill. So put in that first name, followed by the city and state or country you're from. And yes, I'm right about country. We have 13 countries right now that have expressed an interest. I'm open to anybody about CPS. It's a worldwide podcast, and so I'm open about anybody about that. Welcome this morning, Faye. It's so good to have you here. Faye is a loving mother. She has seen everything about the problems with CPS. She's from Richmond, Kentucky, which is a very corrupt state with the child protection system. It's called the Bureau. And no, it's called the Cabinet. I keep calling the wrong name. Every state will have different acronyms, like Arizona's Department of Children's Services, California's Child Protection Services. So when I say CPS, I mean all of them, the child protection system. So Faye, is somebody that was brought up in foster care. Sadly, her mother was the cause of it. She loves her mother. Her mother's passed away, but she was in and out of foster care 5 times through all kinds of abuse, rape, molestation, sex trafficking, the whole gamut. She's seen everything. And then when she falls in love and gets married, she has a child. She had 2 children. She first had her son, and then she had a daughter. And at 5 years of age, she had to make a choice, not her, but when her daughter was 5 years, to keep her daughter, to lose her son, or to keep her son. So she was forced into it. She had no choice. CPS is that corrupt in Kentucky. So she kept her son. He's a special need child. He's 23 now. And she's trying to get guardianship of him because he needs special needs for the rest of his life. That's how dedicated she is to her family. She really is. And in Kentucky, it's called DCBS, the Cabinet for Health and Family Services. I have to remember that. Anyway, she's on my show all the time, and she bring up all kinds of topics. We talk all the time. I want to welcome a new person in this room, Rebecca Amaki. She says she's good morning, and she's from Minnesota. Welcome, Rebecca. And if you have something to say, please, ask away. I'm glad to have you, Rebecca. So we have Faye from Kentucky, Rebecca from Minnesota. Now, I was just talking about a second thing of how they interact with this podcast. Is that you have to, show the location because it helps me understand what the situation is. Also, I need to adjust myself so you can see me. Excuse me. I'm having a bad issue here this morning. It's early. This is my 8 o'clock show in the morning. Normally I'm on at 10 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, but I'm on 8. Now, when I said that country, I said about 13 countries. So far, they've texted in has been Bangladesh, New Delhi, India, Africa, South Africa, the province on the west coast. Then across from the island of Madagascar on the east coast is Mozambique. They have texted in comments. They're above South Africa. Then in Central East Africa, we have Rwanda. It's a small country near Lake Victoria in the center of Africa. And Rwanda had the misfortunes. Let me see if I do have something to drink here that should help me a little bit. Maybe I should try some water. So they went through a very tragic time in 1994 when the whole nation was at civil war and over 1 million people were brutally murdered and killed. 1 million people. And 500,000 females were raped. Young females, teenage females, young, it's just the whole gamut. If you can picture that, that was a terrible, terrible atrocity that happened. But they texted in and said they're back together again, and they had some questions about the Child Protection Agency, the CPS, the system. And so what I did is talk to them. So it's important that everybody calls in. Everybody can call in and talk. Now we go to the west coast of Africa to a country called Liberia. It's on the coast in northern Africa, and it had a gentleman named Archie who is had some questions about CPS, Child Protection System, and he's a scouter. He's involved in scouting. Scouting is a program that went through some major changes, and one of them is they allow women now into the Boy Scouts. So the Boy Scouts, not the Boy Scouts, they're called scouting and called scouters. Anyway, he loves to talk about what he does with the children and so forth, and that's really, really good. Now we go to Europe. I've had England, Scotland, Wales, the United Kingdom. I've had Denmark and Sweden. We travel across the pond, go to North America, and I have Canada. Both sides of Canada have texted in. And then, of course, the United States. I've heard from everybody in the United States, either phone calling or they've texted in a question or a comment or something, including Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. was another one that the girl had a horrific, sad as her case. She was raped when she was in her new federal housing. Her child was temporarily put into care. She was put supposedly to protected custody. She was put in a hotel in Washington, D.C., and she was raped a second time. I tell you, people are so misunfortunate about things. That water tastes good. Okay. Now I got some water. I'm feeling a lot better. So I've heard from places like the Rosebud Reservation, the Lakota Sioux there in South Dakota. I've heard from another Indian tribe, the Cherokee in Oklahoma. And so Native American and children are important, as well as all the children are important. And I've heard from some terrible stories, Missouri, Arkansas, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Maryland, etc. I've also heard from social workers. I've had 2 social workers. One was a clinical psychiatrist from Maryland who had 6 months of training in Maryland. And she talked about how she does the child protection system in Maryland. And she was quite surprised when I was telling her about the things that I've heard in my own experience in California. Another social worker, which was a third-party social worker, where she's hired by the CPS system. She was from Indiana, and she told me about things too, and she agreed with me how bad that CPS is. And just yesterday, I had a foster care mom call in, which is great because I want to hear from all aspects of the child protection system. And She was in foster care as a young child, and now she's as a parent in foster care. So she was helping to explain things in the foster care. Now, Rebecca said something further as I speak about how they interact. Rebecca says to her, I've been fighting my case for over 5 years. Her ex mother in law got my son. So I guess that she had a I don't know if it was a marriage by the man or something, but the man's mother got her son. He's not in a safe place with them. I have never got to see my son, even though I have a contract that says I can see them. It's not fair, but the money tree ran dry. I know that feeling, Rebecca. And I guess what happened, you had a marriage, and I'm assuming that in a custody arrangement, you're supposed to see your son. I don't know if you can tell me more about that. Going back to my about the comments, and I was talking about the countries. We go south the border to Mexico. I had a man calling looking for his daughters in Louisiana. Then we go to South America, and I have the country of Guyana, east of Venezuela, north of Brazil on the east coast, with the coastal town of Georgetown. And they had texted in a comment. And then I go across the Pacific to the land down under, and I had Australia. So those are the countries that so far have called in. I had a couple of them from the Middle East, but they were in Arabic, and I don't speak Arabic. So I know it's a worldwide academic, and I'm afraid to say that it's a corrupt and broken system. Yes, it's a hard system. Social workers that speak up are being fired, and it's all the upper management because it's all about money. It's $1 trillion business. The reason why they want your child because they get so many childs based on their quota. My kids that were in there firsthand, they were getting that agency was getting $60,000 per child per month. Excuse me, 20,000 per child per month, totaling 60,000 because I had 3 children that were trafficking, that were stolen in there. And it's sad. It really is sad. But I know firsthand. I've also talked to a lot of you out there. One person talked to me as a cashier, and she saw the checks coming in from social workers and the bonuses and so forth that they pay their social workers. It's very corrupt. There are good social workers out there. Don't get me wrong. As I told you, I had 2 social workers on the show and a foster care mom, and all 3 of them were great to talk to. So I know there's still hope out there, but the majority of the cases, the 99% of the cases I've heard, and there's 400,000 children in being investigated by the child protection system. 500,000 children. And it's so corrupt. It's so corrupt that $1 million is unaccounted for in Kentucky. It started at 700,000, 800. It's $1,100,000 that don't know where the money went to. I know where it went to. It went to the managements of the corrupt directors that operate these child protection systems. So, with your listing of your city, state, or country, please be complete with your case. Tell me what your family is made up of. Are you a husband, wife? Are you a girlfriend, boyfriend? Are you lovers? Are you a partnership? And furthermore, are you a single parent? Are both parents involved? Or the children have different parents? That's kind of important to tell me those things. What are the ages of the children, the sex and ages of the children? And then, furthermore, what was the allegations? Was it neglect or abuse or both, and some details about those things there. And so if you could tell me all those parameters, that would help me understand your case. Also, how were your children taken from your home? That's interesting because of the laws, the constitutional and civil rights are being violated by CPS. It's really hard. It's really, really, really hard. And I find that if you share that with me and where you're at in your case, it'll go a lot quicker because we'll end up playing ping pong ball, which I don't mind. Where I ask you a question, you answer. I ask a question, you mind, so forth. So that's how you can be complete with your case, whether you text it in or call in. I'm going to get my phone number up there in a moment. Now, a third way to interact with this podcast is to be a guest on the show. I'd love for you to be a guest on my show. I can take up to 9 guests. I can have 10 people. I broadcast on YouTube using StreamYard. You found me on Facebook or YouTube, Fight CPS. And those are good words to look it up, and you'll find me. I have hundreds of videos that talk about different cases. I have right now loaded about 50 topics. I can talk about ICWA. I can talk about the 388 motion. I can talk about the ICPC. I can talk about the JV 160. There's all these topics that we can talk about. I also have comprised a total of 5 rules to help you in your CPS case. 5 rules that I didn't follow. 5 rules I didn't follow. I mean, rule number 1 was get an attorney. Rule number 2 is organize your paperwork into a notebook. Rule number 3, do not let them in your home. There's only 3 ways they get in your home. Either you give them permission, either domestic violence has taken place, or they have a court order. And rule number 4 is the research. Spend 60 hours looking up everything you know about CPS. You'll find so much in your city and county. And lastly, rule number 5 is organize some important documents into a folder, like your passport, your driver's license, your children's grade reports, your children's birth certificates, social security numbers. You want to have all those or have copies of those things. I don't mean like your driver's license you have on there, but make a copy of your driver's license. But you put all that in a special folder and keep that with you because they'll come up where you'll need those documents. That was provided by a suggestion from Faye. She's the one that came up with rule number 5. Anyway, those are quick the rules. We can talk about them more. Also, I've been in the trenches. I've been where you're at. I once had a beautiful home, and after working 40 years, I had to sell it to hire an attorney. I lost my home to CPS. I lost my credit to CPS. I lost my third-born daughter to CPS. My youngest daughter I lost. Beautiful daughter. Me and my wife are heartbroken. Heartbroken that the social worker retaliated and stole our daughter. There are so many unscrupulous things that CPS does. I've also lived out of a car for a while when I was homeless, so I know what it is when I'm financially ruined. I once had a beautiful job and a beautiful home and a beautiful family. Now, today, I live with my family of 2 boys and my wife who have been married for 31 years. But they're all messed up because of CPS, so I know where you're coming from. Anyway, the third thing to schedule as our guest, you're going to contact our show producer. Her name is Grace, and she works behind the scenes, making sure my podcast goes right. And I'm really thankful for my show producer. To contact her to be a guest on my podcast is you just email grace@vincentwdavis.com. grace@vincentwdavis.com. And I'm on 14 shows a week, 7 days a week, every day. And I'm on at 10 o'clock in the morning Pacific Standard Time and 7 o'clock in the evening Pacific Standard Time. The only exception is on Sunday. I'm on at 8 o'clock in the morning Pacific Standard Time. And I invite you all and encourage you all to join me every day. But if you want to be a guest, all you do is you pick one of my show times, Monday through Sunday, either morning or afternoon, and tell Grace in your email, and she will give you the link to the application I use, SteamYard, and how to get on. She'll also tell you things like there's no eating on the show, there's no smoking on the show. Also, we do not use the names of judges, of children, of the social workers there. But she will tell you how to be a guest. So that's grace@vincentwdavis.com. Now, the last way to interact with this podcast is to call in. And I put my number up, which means now I'm live. I can take shows. I can take... Now, Faye just put up a new comment. She said the CAPTA/ASFA, which stands for Quota to Get Bonuses and Federal Funding to Place More Kids into Foster Placements, have been the prior year before in every state. It is terrible. It is terrible. She also gives you a link, and her link will take you there. You just type that in, that link. Let me put the link up so you can see it. There's the link. https://YouTube. There. I know you can't see the comments unless you're a guest on the podcast. You can't see the comments. So I have to put them up on my page there. So you can see this. And she will also send it to my phone because I can't even click the link on this podcast. Let's see. Sometimes she puts it in. Let me see. Maybe she put it on my other link. Okay. She found on Newsbreak, you blew it. The Department of Children, Family and Services to blame for Louisiana's teens' botched adoption, potential mom says. So that's what that... No, that's another link you put up. I don't have that link. That's another link. Faye, could you put that link on my phone? Faye, if you hear me, you can put that link up. Let me go ahead and there it is. Thank you, Faye. It's a YouTube video, and I can share it
The
with
only
you.
way to stop procrastinating is hypnotherapy. I know it sounds like fairy dust, but give me 30 seconds.
Cost of good intentions, specifically adoption. Congress passed a law almost 10 years ago that gives states bonuses based on the number of kids moved from foster care into adoptive homes. Now, some child welfare experts are saying the bonuses are leading some children to be put at risk. The story tonight from NBC's Lee Thompson.
When Kentucky Child Welfare Supervisor Pat Moore learned 2 children were about to be adopted into a home with a convicted felon, she went to her bosses.
They wanted me to shut up and get the adoptions completed, period. No questions asked.
The adoptions would have flown through, she says, if she hadn't blown the whistle. Tom Biting was the court-appointed guardian.
It's outrageous. I believe that they were going for the numbers to get their numbers up.
But why would a state pressure welfare workers to force adoptions? One reason may be money. States can earn federal bonuses for keeping adoption numbers high. And in Kentucky, workers can even get extra vacation.
What they did every year is they set a quota based on the previous year's number of adoptions.
An NBC News computer analysis shows adoptions have risen dramatically nationwide. In Kentucky, they've tripled in 6 years, while those federal bonuses have grown to more than $1 million. At the same time, the number of kids returned to their parents, often the best solution, has dropped sharply. States don't get bonuses for that.
If you receive money for doing one thing and you receive nothing from doing the other, it's not much of a choice after a while.
Critics say the promise of federal money is pushing kids into dangerous adoptions, a charge Kentucky's child welfare chief denies.
I'm comfortable with the process and comfortable with the oversight that we have in place to ensure that our decisions are appropriate.
Wade Horn runs the federal government's child welfare system and says any quotas are inappropriate.
No state should ever make a decision about a permanency option for a child because of finances.
These are human beings. They're not numbers. They're not statistics. These are lives.
Pat Moore says she was forced out for speaking out. The state says that's not true. She is suing the state, which at last count had more than 2,000 kids up for adoption. Lee Thompson, NBC News, Covington, Kentucky.
Okay, I was just sharing something that Faye had shared with me earlier. And I want you all to, hold on a second, to know the severity of your child. And in all things, you should right away research your constitutional rights, your civil rights, which you're allowed to have an attorney represent you through all phases of any criminal activity. And deal with the child protection system. They're criminal. They're going to traffic your child. Do not talk to social workers. My rule number 3 is you don't talk to social workers. You don't talk to police. And you say, well, how can I not to? They ask me. You just be very nice to them and tell them. And if you talk to them outside of your home, that you need to have your attorney present and you need to speak to them before you go any further. Please give me your badge number and your name, or the social worker, let me see your ID so I can get your name. And with that information, you'll get back to them. That way you're not stopping what they're trying to do, but they can't stop or force you unless they have a warrant that specifically tells them they can talk to you or they can take your child, whatever. They're going to come into your home. If you answer the door, your history. And I want to emphasize how important lately they answer your door. I know of 3 people that are dead right now. A black young airman, 23 years old, from Gainesville, Florida, was shot 5 times in the chest by a Gainesville sheriff not using proper procedures. He died on FaceTime talking to his girlfriend. That sheriff was removed and fired a week later. another person, a black lady, that you can see from the video that the sheriff was trying to be overzealous, angering him, and he shot the woman 5 times in the face. She's dead. She is dead because there's no weapon in her possession. And that sheriff, by the way, was fired that night and charged with manslaughter. And then there is the third, a Korean lady that had some issues, and the police forced their way into him and shot her dead. I don't know what it is. There's too many people being shot dead. I think all policemen need to go back to 101 of learning how to subdue a person, especially if they don't have a weapon. Now, the black young airman did have a weapon, but it's down his side. But he could have been done. I mean, it's ridiculous. We have 3 people, so I'm telling you, don't answer the door. If you have a neighbor that wants to see you or has someone who wants to see you, arrange a special knock or doorbell ring, or them calling ahead that they're going to be at your door. So back away from the door, keep quiet, because it's either the police or the Child Protection Agency or a salesman that wants to sell you religion or something like that. So don't answer the door. It's your castle. It's your castle. So, let me take off this link here. So please call in if you have a question, comment about CPS. I am live right now. It's 626-698-0990. So any of you that are listening right now, I'm open to comments or phone calls or emojis. You can sit there as you listen, send emojis like thumbs up, a loving heart. I love those emojis there. Okay, let me adjust myself here. All right. Thank you, Faye. So, is there anything you like me to talk about, Faye, since you're the only active person in the room right now? We had another person that come into the room, but I don't know, Rebecca, if you're still there. Rebecca from Minnesota, do you have a question or a comment? Do you want to call in, Rebecca? I'd love to help you out. Well, the types of social workers you're going to encounter are horrible ones. I know of one social worker. Actually, it was 8 social workers that were in Prescott, Arizona in the year 2022. That was only a couple years ago. These social workers thought they were pretty clever. They purchased pink t-shirts. Now, not against pink, but they put something on the t-shirts, these social workers from Prescott, Arizona. 8 women, white female women social workers with over 25 years of experience, put on the front of the pink t-shirts, professional child kidnappers. Professional child kidnappers. Doesn't that strike you kind of bad? And on the back of the t-shirt, they said, do you know where your children are at? Do you know where your children are at? And so they went outside to parade around at Best Buys, at Target, at Costco, at Walmart, all the big department stores. They're parading around. And the parents were outrageous. They called in, and I guess they called, I don't know who they called or what the details are, but those 8 social workers were immediately fired, and the director of the Department of Children's Services, DCS, there in Prescott, Arizona, was fired. They left with one person left, a male, who had to hold down the Department for Protection of Children. You know, I'm not against the Child Protection Agency for protecting our children. What I'm against on is for the abuse of the power they do over our children. Can you give me a few minutes? Okay. So that they they are very, very abusive with your family and with your children and whatnot. So what I'm telling you now is that the Child Protection Agency is very corrupt. And they've allowed these 8 social workers, they were fired along with the director. But that is the mentality of social workers. There was another social worker recently from Chicago, Illinois, that on her Facebook page, it said that she was a social worker. She placed an ad from 1848. And that ad said that they that black children for sale is the original ad. It didn't have the word black. It had the N word. We're not allowed to use the N word. But anyway, black children for sale in 1848. Why does that have anything to do with the year 2024? Also, the social worker is black. So why would she put there? Now, Faye did contact that social worker and ask her why she did it. And she was only saying that, well, they still are being sold today. And I still don't think it's appropriate. I don't think it's something that the agency boasts in Chicago, Illinois. But that's your example of a social worker for the child protection system. Also, there was another case of a mother family is being investigated, and the social worker was a man investigator. It was about a 15-year-old boy molesting a 13-year-old girl, and the mother not protecting the 13-year-old girl. So the investigator went to the daughter's school and asked the school, could he see the daughter alone? Now, when he saw the daughter alone in the room, he asked her to disrobe her clothing so he'd take pictures of it. They didn't know that he's a pedophile. And the daughter was traumatized. You have to imagine a 13-year-old with an older man being naked while he took pictures of her. Well, she told her mother called CPS, and CPS investigated and fired the man. But did they prosecute the man? When she called the police said they did nothing. They wouldn't do a report. That's how corrupt that police department, how stupid that police department is. Anyway, after the guy was fired, there was a co-worker of his who's known him since grade school. They've been buddies all their life. Retaliated against the mother and had the charges changed from the son molesting the daughter to the mother molesting the son. And it's become a nightmare. Now, Faye liked to share a story here about a social worker in Kentucky that calls herself the Terminator. The Terminator. So that social worker in Kentucky is called the Terminator. that is another case of a social worker that you have to deal with. They are corrupt and they are not your friend. They will take your children. They do not. You just cannot talk to them, deal with them. And you say, well, what do you need to do? You need to hire an attorney. And I'd like to talk a few minutes about the attorney. You need somebody. Like we have an attorney, has a law firm, Vincent W. Davis and his Associates. And this law firm produces this podcast. And now I've made special arrangements with this attorney, Vincent W. Davis, to offer a consultation for 30 minutes for $60. That's 30 minutes for $60, which is quite a bargain. I don't think you'll find any attorney less than, say, $300 to $1,000. So talk to you for an hour. This will talk to you for $60 for 30 minutes. And so all I'm saying is that first, I want to thank him for this podcast. But all you need to do is call in to 888-888-6582. Tell me you want to speak to Mr. Davis. And he'll want a consultation for 30 minutes. It's a $60 charge. They'd be worth it. And after talking to him, mention that you're interested in him defending you and how much the retainer is. And he'll talk to you about his retainer, depending on your case, how long it's been going on, and how complex it is. He will go out of state. He'll go to Northern California, and he'll go to all the 50 states. There's additional expense to that because he needs to be compensated for his airfare, his ground transportation, the hotel, and food while he's there. But the rest of the costs will be based if they're done in California. He has 35 years as a family juvenile dependency attorney. He also is a fighter against CPS. He has fought them and gotten the children back. So he is available. All you do is call in 888-888-6582. And furthermore, there is a ticket running at the bottom of my screen that gives his website that you can schedule an appointment. It's https:// CANDILY//appsVWD/Bob Pace. And that'll take you to his site to sign up for a consultation. When you call in, make sure you tell him that Bob Pace sent you. And when you speak to Mr. Davis, make sure you tell him that Bob Pace sent you. And so, with that being said, that's how you can get an attorney that'll change your life. I hired him. I sold my home and hired him. And I got my 2 boys back. I didn't get my daughter back because that social worker, and I'll give you another example of what kind they are, was testifying on the stand about my wife's sister and her husband adopting our daughter. This social worker is very young, very naive, and so forth. But my attorney was asking her the question, has there been any domestic violence in the home? And the social worker said, no, they're wonderful parents. I checked them out. No problem with them. Well, then Mr. Davis took out a folder with all these police reports, an inch thick, long folder with all these, not 10 or 15, all these incidents of domestic violence. And then he asked her again, what about this report and this report? Well, the social worker was embarrassed in front of the judge, in front of her peers. She was humiliated because Vincent Davis caught her perjury, which is a suable offense. She could have a lawsuit, and I want to sue her. but it takes money for the lawsuit. And I'm done. I fought to have my boys back, and I just don't have more money. I am broke. I am very desperate in need of my career job back again. I'd lost my job at the age of 60 through no fault of my own. My children are taken at age 65. It's wrong for an older person to go through the torture that I've gone through. That's one of the reasons why I do this podcast is I don't want you parents doing the same thing. I don't want you parents doing the same thing. So I'm here to help you and make sure that you get a fair shake. Well, it's 9 o'clock. I know I started a little bit late this morning, but I'm supposed to stop at 9 o'clock. I'm going to be on again at 10 o'clock this morning. 10 o'clock this morning. Excuse me, not 10 o'clock. 7 o'clock tonight. I apologize. 7 o'clock this evening, Pacific Standard Time. And I'd like you all to come back. I invite you, Faye, to come back and be in my room. You're a blessing to have in a room with a lot of good ideas. And you're really strong. Rebecca, I wanted to hear more about your case. I know you money ran dry, but I really want to help you, Rebecca, from Minnesota. And thank you all for the other ones that are listening and the emojis and so forth. So God bless you all, and good luck on your case. Don't stop. Don't give up. And I'll see you tonight at 7 p.m. This is Bob Pace signing off.